Welcome back. Last lesson we added a part into here, and here it is sitting here waiting for us. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the properties of our part. So if you haven't already, click on your part so it's highlighted like this, and down here on the right we will see our properties panel. Now it has a lot of things in here that we can change. Alright, now when we add a part to Studio or into our game or a project, whatever it is that we're doing, usually it serves a purpose. So it's a thing, it's not just a part. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to change this. We're going to make a little scene in front of us here. All right, with a few parts, but we'll just start with this one for a start. Okay, so this part is going to be a ramp that our player is going to run up to the top, and then we're going to have another part, just a platform, and then another ramp that they run down the other side. So a bit like a bridge. Okay, so we can call this now, okay, ramp, because that's what we're going to change this into. Alright, and our ramp, we're going to make it, obviously it needs to be slanted, so if we come up to rotate here, we get our rotate circles come up, and let's make it, we'll set this back to 45 degrees, and when we click on our part and we rotate it, we get a ramp like this. Now it's a bit thick at the moment, so let's use our scale tool up the top here, and we will move this down. Now at the moment it's set to 1 stud, so which is the minimum that this can go down, so you'll notice that it won't go any further. So let's change this to be say 0.2. Alright, so it will scale down to be thin, so it's a nice thin ramp. Alright, and if we just move down to the bottom here and just scale this down until it's touching our base plate, alright, and make it a bit longer if you like, and that's probably wide enough, although if you want to make it more challenging you can make it a little bit thinner. So here we have our ramp. Now the first property that, if I just click off that, we can see that it's sitting in front of us. So let's now save our work and publish our work. All right, so when you make changes to code or to your game, you need to make sure that you save, not necessarily publish at this stage. However, it's a good habit to get into, to save and publish. And we're going to run the game and get our character involved. So up the top, click on Test and simply click on Play. Now that will load up our game as it is, and our character will spawn where we are. And hang on a second, what's gone wrong? Our ramp, you'll notice, has collapsed onto the ground. And you may think, well, that's not right, and it's not. And we're going to have a look now at part properties to see how do we fix this up. So click on Stop to stop the game running, and our ramp goes back to where it was. Now why is that? Well, let's click on Ramp and have a look down here. Now if we come down to where we were working before, if we have a look at Behavior, you'll notice that there is a property that shows here called Anchored, and it is unchecked. Now anchored means that we keep that part where we place it in the world, and we don't want it to move anywhere else, because Roblox Studio has its own physics and gravity and etc. that applies to players. So when we jump, we don't float off into space, and our parts stay where they are. So if we check this anchored and save it again and run our game again, you'll notice that our ramp will now stay where we left it. And if our player runs up the ramp, okay, they collide with it as well. So if we stop that and have another look, you can see we have can collide here as well. So if we uncheck that and save it, I think you'll probably guess that the player will no longer collide with that part. So when we run into it, they can't run up the ramp because collisions are turned off. Alright, so they're two important properties to get your head around, and it's also important because when we start coding with these objects, that not having things anchored, etc., or collide can cause problems, so they're good things to check. So at the moment we want these checked, anchored and on. Right, so we've got one side of our ramp here. We want to have another one over here. So we can simply duplicate this, and the way we can do this is we can either right click on this and choose duplicate, which you can see Command D or Control D on a PC will duplicate this part, and it's duplicated it in exactly the same spot. So if we click on our model up the top here, our model tab, and move on our second ramp, see how it's separated here? Alright. Now we want to move this over this way here. So there's two ways we can go about it. Now we can sort of drag it up and down, etc. However, I think it's better if we just rotate this so that it's straight, then move it across here and then rotate it the other way, and we have two ramps going up. Alright, the last thing that we want to do is we will duplicate this again, so Command D, and we'll use our rotate tool again to go 45 degrees to make it flat. We'll drag it across here and then move it up so that it meets our ramps, like so. So now we want to scale it so that it meets the other ramp, and we have the makings of a simple bridge. Alright, now this part is the platform, and the other two parts are the ramps. So at the moment it's a bit boring, and it's sort of, you know, just grey, generic, plasticky sort of looking and not very interesting. So let's change that. So we can change the properties of items individually, but if we wanted to change the properties of all of them at once, we can simply hold down, after we've selected, say, the platform, hold down Shift and the top one, and it will select all of them. And if I click off that and I wanted to select them individually, I can hold down the Command key and then click on items individually to select all of them. Alright, so you can do this yourself to get them selected like this, and then there are things we can change down the bottom to affect everything. So let's make this a stone bridge. So grey stone grey is okay. However, if we have a look at the material, we have a lot of things to choose from. So granite, if I click on that, it changes our bridge material to granite, and there is lots. Cobblestones, they look pretty good. Alright, and you can go through and have a play with that and work out which one is the best. Alright, so pebbles is another one there that might be good for a bridge, or slate. Okay, so I'll leave it at slate, but you by all means change your colors and your materials and get it so that you have a little bridge like this. Alright, so because we duplicated the part from the ramp, then all of these, if we have a look down here, should be anchored and collide. Alright, just remember, if you put in a new part, anchored will be turned off most likely, and so you'll need to make that adjustment. So you can save that now and have another little test. if you like, and make sure that your player can actually run up and over the bridge. So there's our bridge, it's holding up. We run up the bridge and over the other side, all as well, and I can jump up on top of it. I can't run through it, so everything is working as we might expect. So in our properties down here, if you want to change the color, you can simply click on this and we can make it a yellow. I've only changed one part, so let's shift collect, and you'll notice because I've now selected one part, that was grayed out, but now it's gone to the one color. But let's change it to say a slightly different color. All right, and that's our brick color. We've got a shadow here as well. You'll notice underneath. You can turn that off if you wish. All right, but it's a nice effect and helps you place things. The material. And lastly, for this video, we're going to have a look at transparency. So transparency means we can make this effectively disappear. And if you click on it, you'll see a slider. And if I slide this to the right, you'll see our bridge disappears. And if I click off that, it's completely gone. However, let's play it and see what happens when our player runs straight out here. All right, completely. There we go. Okay, see how it's running into that? I can't go any further. And if I jump, even though it's invisible, it's still there really. So if you want to make something disappear and so that the player doesn't do things like this, stand in midair, you need to make sure that if it's disappeared, and that you need to turn off the can collide so the player can run through it. All right, so if we select these again, come back down to our transparency, move the slider back to 0. You'll notice that transparency is between 0 and 1. 1 is completely disappeared, 0 is completely visible. Okay, and that is all I wanted to cover in this. We can do lots and lots of things with properties. However, for now, those are the most important things, and we have a little bridge here. So in the next video, we're going to see how to make this into a model. I'll see you there.